Hi everybody, and thanks again for joining us for today's webinar, Kickstart Your Career Change in 5 Simple Steps. My name's Jeff Murphy. I'm an Associate Director in the BU Alumni Relations Office, and I'm also a proud alumnus of the 2006 class from the Graduate School of Management here at BU. I'm delighted that you've chosen to join us for this, our 5th installment in our Professional Development webinar series. Today's webinar is being sponsored by the Boston University Alumni Association and the BU Development and Alumni Relations Office, and we offer it to our 300,000 alumni around the globe. Throughout your career, the BU Alumni Association is committed to helping you define and achieve your professional goals. We aim to do this by providing alumni with access to a series of valuable online tools and social media communities. Particularly as we continue to build this webinar series, it's really important to us that we get your opinion on how we're doing. So we very much look forward to receiving your feedback via a survey that will be emailed to you all later today. So for those of you that I know are joining us from places today as far away as Los Angeles, Seattle, Brussels in Belgium, Athens, Georgia, or Campbellville, Ontario, please know that we know that you're real humans behind this webinar, and we really do value your opinion on this and everything that we offer. Before I introduce today's speaker, just a couple housekeeping notes. As you know by now, this webinar is being hosted on the Adobe Connect online meeting platform. If you experience any kind of trouble with the audio or visual portions of today's presentation, please contact Adobe Connect directly. I'll give you that phone number if you want to jot it down. It's 1-800-422-3623. Today's presentation is being recorded and will soon be available for on-demand viewing on the BU Alumni Association website, which you can find at www.bu.edu/alumni. Our speaker today is very eager to answer any questions that you may have, and you are welcome to submit them at any time throughout the presentation using the Q&A chat box that you should all see located below the visual portion of the webinar. We hope to get to as many questions as we can, and please know that if we don't get to them, Carly is definitely going to make herself available to answer those in a later fashion. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our featured speaker for the day, Carly Goldsmith. Carly is a graduate for the BU College of Arts and Sciences from 1997. Carly supports mid-career professionals in achieving greater career success, finding meaningful work, and living fulfilling lives. She brings over 16 years of human resource and business experience, 8 of those with Deloitte, to work for her clients. While at Deloitte, she was part of the groundbreaking and innovative Coaching and Careers Connection team, coaching professionals at all levels around navigating their careers and developing their management and leadership abilities. Back in 2009, she followed her passion and launched her own coaching business. Compassionate and intuitive by nature, Carly draws from personal and professional experience as well as her extensive training and certification in coaching for individuals, relationships, and teams. Again, her bachelor's degree is from BU and it's in psychology, and she's also certified in a number of assessment tools such as the MBTI, Lominger Leadership Architect, Voices 360, and Team Diagnostics. Carly, thank you again for being with us today. Thank you for all the time that you've already spent on designing this presentation, and I'm happy to hand it over to you. The floor is yours.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jeff, and thank you all for being here today. I know it's very busy, our schedules, so it's wonderful that everyone can join us today and learn a little bit more about kickstarting the career change that hopefully you are envisioning. So we're about to load our slides here. Here we go. Wonderful. Okay, so what we're going to do today is really go through some of the steps that you can take to kickstart your career change. My guess is that all of you are here for a reason. You've got a yearning, you've got a frustration, you want to do something different, and you're starting to think about what can I do? Or perhaps you're in a place where you've started some things, you've hit some dead ends, you've hit some tough spots, and you're looking for ways to get past some of those barriers and get into action. So we're going to go through all of that today in the next hour or so. We're going to do questions at the end, but as Jeff said, feel free to put your questions into the Q&A text box down at the bottom, and we'll address them as we can at the end. So let's get started. Jeff's going to put a polling question up for us. What I like to do is get a sense of who's out there today. So Jeff's now putting the polling question. Just select the one that best represents you and where you are in your career. All right, so our answers are coming in. Some good distribution today. All right. Okay, so I don't know when you want to close the polls, Jeff, but it looks like we have a good distribution here. There we go. Polls are closed. So looks like we have a good distribution of folks who are in various places of your career. One of the things that I like to get a sense of here is where you are in your career for a variety of reasons. When we think about where you are in your career, I like to sometimes put it into three basic phases of your career to really think about what is the main drivers, where are you personally, professionally. And so when I think about those first, if you're in the first maybe 10 to 15 years of your career, I like to call this the putting money in the bank phase. So this is when you are really focused on growing skills and experience and knowledge and getting exposed to different things. There tends to be a lot that happens. There's a lot of opportunities to really just absorb and learn a ton of things. So if you will put that money in the bank of your experiences and that literal money as well, we also see at this early stage, this is when you're starting off maybe at a low salary, but you're quickly increasing. There's a lot of promotion that happen as you start to grow and develop in your career. The middle phase, that middle 10 to 15 years, I like to call this typically your investing or your and spending years of your career. This is typically the time where you are putting some of the things that you have learned into more purposeful action. I see a lot of people shifting careers at this place, really aligning what they've learned about what they want to do, what they like, what they're good at, and really focus in a more purposeful way. This also tends to be a phase in your career where there's a lot of, it's the family years, a lot of other things that are happening personally. So this is where you're making other investments or other shifts in your career in order to balance out everything else that's going on. And, you know, I'll just lump in the rest of your career, the end of your career, although I know there's multiple stages depending on how long you choose to work. But typically the end part of your career is when you are reinvesting, you're giving back. So not only is it about you, but it's also about thinking about your legacy. What are you leaving behind? What is the impact that you're making? I also see folks who shift careers. Maybe it's a post-retirement career. It's almost a second phase of their career that happens later on in those years. So looks like we have a good spread here. So hopefully all of these tips will meet you where you are today in your career. So let's move to the next polling question. One other polling question about your career mindset. Where are you right now in your career? What's that urge, that desire to change? Okay. Aha, so not surprising here. I didn't think I was going to get many people in the I love what I do and it meets all of my needs at this time. Oh, I got a couple. Great. Okay, good. Okay. So what we're seeing here is a lot of you who, you know, maybe you don't have an idea, maybe you have a slight idea, but it's really about what are some of those things that you could start doing to either move you in a different direction, get you some of those skills that you need to find greater happiness and success. So this is perfect. I like to have this knowledge and really to get you thinking, you know, when I work with my clients, it is inevitable that you are going to be in one of these phases at some point in your career, and you're going to move through all of these because your career, it's not static. It really is a process. things shift. What we find is that you may be at that place where you love what you're doing, it meets all of your needs, but something changes. Maybe something changes for you, maybe something changes in the work environment. We see a lot of changes that happen in the workplace over the last few years, especially with the economy turning down, where people were being reorged into new positions or losing their positions. So sometimes those changes will happen whether you drive them or not to push you into one of these different places and have those ups and downs. And the 5 steps that I'm going to talk to you about today, they're really helpful for those of you who want to make a big career change, but it's also going to be helpful for you if you know where you're going and are just looking for a job search, or if you are looking to just make some improvements in your current career path to find some greater success. So really see this as a way to support you wherever you are in your career, because what we know is that, especially in career change, but in career development and your career growth overall, it's much more a marathon than it is a sprint, and we need to be prepared for that journey. So and for those of you, I'll give this right now and I'll talk about it at the end as well. But if you're struggling with, do I need a job change or a career change, there's actually a quiz on my website that you could take that helps you think about that and really dissect it a little bit more to see what's really the right thing for you, an overall career change in a different direction, or do you simply need to get a job change and do what you do, maybe just in a different place. All right, so I am putting this quote up here because really all of you are here for a reason. There's very few of you who are fully satisfied and love what you do and feel like there's no changes. And so that yearning that I talked about, that desire for change, that frustration maybe that you're feeling right now, that's a spark. And what we know is that if you don't pay attention to that and nourish those sparks, they can fade, they could get cold, and what happens is that it turns, your frustration turns into resignation, it turns into apathy, and then you feel stuck, you feel like you're paralyzed, and your confidence starts to lag, perhaps your performance starts to lag in your current position, and it becomes more and more difficult to make that change. So I'm glad that all of you are paying attention to at least a little bit of that spark. You got here today, so that's one thing you're doing to nourish that spark. But let's talk about some other things that you can do, and really the 5 steps that we're going to go through today help you get into action, and it's about setting that foundation and creating that environment that's going to support the change that you are looking to make in your career. So let's start with step 1. Step 1 is about asking those hard questions. And when we think about asking those hard questions, the first topic is you really want to get clear on your motivations for change. Why is this change so important? Why now? Why is right now the right time to initiate a career change or a job change? And really, are you really looking for a career change? Is that really the right thing? Or are you, is there a different motivation or driver behind it? I have a lot of folks that I work with who come and say, oh, I really just need a new direction. I've got to go and change completely. And really, when we peel it back, their motivations are really about escaping the situation that they're in. Perhaps it's a challenging boss, or there's a skill that they need to develop. So really get clear on that. Why are you feeling a need to change? Is it really a career change that you need, or is there some work that you need to do in your current position in order to find some greater success there? The other thing I'd like you to do, and I think this is inspirational, aspirational, and it also is very informative, is to help really to envision what your success looks like. So I challenge everyone I work with to really paint that picture. Put yourself at a place in the future. If everything is in place, the success that you want, what does the career look like? What are you doing day to day? Where are you working? Who are you working with? How does it fit into your life? What does it enable? How does it allow you to really honor what's important to you and leverage your strengths and make you successful? What does that picture look like? That is going to not only serve as inspiration, as I said, but it's also going to inform you as to what are the most critical changes that you need to make right now. Because when you see what it looks like, what success looks like, that will help you pinpoint what are some of those changes. And sometimes you can make some really quick and easy changes right now that help open up some space and help you get some more success now as you're looking to make a longer term change. The next one, next thing to think about when you're asking yourself those hard questions is really what's realistic. Be realistic about what's possible. And I challenge this oftentimes when you feel that urge to do something different. Sometimes you're fed up and you want a new career tomorrow. And you feel like I've just got to go, I've got to take what comes next, and people aren't really realistic about what is possible. And sometimes when we're making big career changes, it does take time to invest in really reflecting on what are you good at, what do you want, what's important to you, what do you need. It takes time to activate your network. It takes time to, perhaps if you're shifting 180 degree different, you're an accountant and you want to become a photographer or start a new business, you've got to think about what kind of school or certification or training might I need. You've got to think about some of maybe the other jobs that you need to get on the path towards shifting direction in the long term. So sometimes when you're making bigger career change, it can't happen overnight, so you need to be realistic about the marathon, as I said before, and the multitude of steps that come between where you are now and where you want to go. And the last one that I've got here, and I think this is a challenge for some of us, but it's really helpful as you are starting this change process, is what are some of the thought processes that need to be dropped in order for you to move forward? And so when I say thought processes, typically what I'm thinking about here and talking about here are some of the beliefs that you hold about what success means for you or what you're capable of. Usually we know what those look like. We can pinpoint what those processes are, those thoughts, those beliefs that need to be dropped when they start with, oh, I have to do this, or I should be doing that. Those are the thought processes that I want you to start identifying for yourself and paying attention to. And do they need to be dropped? Do they need to be changed? I'll give you an example of a client that I worked with. She came to me. She was quite miserable. She actually was a tax accountant, and she kind of fell into that. It was stable. It was something she thought she could, be successful at. But what she found is when she was doing it, there were some things she was good at, but really she didn't want to be an accountant long term. And she was actually hitting a ceiling at work. She couldn't get promoted because she wasn't passing her CPA exam. And so they wouldn't promote her into management because she couldn't pass the CPA exam. She was taking it month after month after month and was failing it every single time. And when she was honest with herself, she really did not want that career path. But a belief that she was holding on to was that I have devoted this much time, I should just pass this exam. I should just be a CPA before I quit. And, CPAs are valuable. I'll always be able to get a job. And so she was having a hard time letting go of that, even though she knew it was making her miserable, and in the end wasn't even the career path that she wanted. So think about those for yourself. Get clear on your motivations. Envision what success looks like. What do you really want to have happen to feel like you are in a place where you're successful? Be realistic about all the things that need to happen and the investments that need to be made and the steps in order to shift directions, and really be critical and mindful of the thought processes that may be getting in your way and sabotaging you that you might not even realize at this point. So that's step one, asking yourself some of the hard questions. In step two, this is where you're really taking the time to assess your resources. And I mean, what do you have and what can you use to make this career change happen? So take that time to think about the actual time that you have. What time do you have to dedicate towards the efforts to make a career change. And this is everything from the reflective time of what do you really want, what are you good at, what's important to you. It's the time it takes to pull that resume together, pull your social media together, start your networking, energize it, do some research. What's the money that you have? And when I also talk about money, it's not just what money do you have in the bank, but what money do you have to invest towards things like additional training if you need that, schooling, certification, time, money that you might need to invest in switching careers. So if you're going down one career path, you want to move to another, it often times will mean that you need to step off that path, maybe take a step back in the level that you're at in order to shift direction. So do you have that time, that money to invest in some lost wages perhaps as you're shifting directions and going down a new path? Assess what your strengths, your skills, your expertise are. And I say this for a couple of reasons. Oftentimes what I see happen for career changers and even job changers is that you get trapped in the job title and what that label is of who you are, and you can't see beyond what you have done on paper. And so I always challenge folks to assess really what are the strengths that you have, the skills, the expertise, what have you collected that will help you be successful, that will transfer into a new position. So get really clear on those resources that you have, the knowledge, the skills, the abilities that you could bring forward into a new career and repackage that. And also think about your strengths, your skills, your expertise, and how they can support you in the actual career change and job search process. I oftentimes have people who tell me, oh, I'm great at project management or I'm great at sales. And when it comes to doing things for their actual job search, they don't recognize those skills and how those can actually be leveraged in the job search or career change process. So don't forget to see those skills as important for the process in and of itself. And assess the resources you have in your network. And if you're taking a look at your network and you realize, oh, I haven't talked to people in a long time. Networking feels like such a dirty word. I don't want to talk to people because then it's just begging for, what opportunities do you know? Start now in reconnecting with people, set that foundation, warm up those contacts that you have, grow your connections, use LinkedIn. It is such a powerful tool that you have, and if you're not on there, if you're not using it, start to make those connections now. It's amazing to me how much I'm seeing my clients gain success through LinkedIn. They are being contacted for opportunities through their network, through recruiters. So really start to focus on your network. Assess where it is today, put some investment and time into growing that network. And also think about your reputation, your personal brand. This is something that will help you as a resource. So if you've got a good reputation and a brand out there, that is going to carry a lot of weight in helping people take chances if you want to switch careers. And if you have no reputation or brand in a new direction that you want, think about starting to grow that now. I'll give an example of a client of mine that I worked with. She had built her career in one industry and knew that long-term that wasn't the industry for her. She really wanted to shift directions. She was doing a lot to volunteer in her new industry and to really build connections there. Finally, her and her employer came to the point where it wasn't the right fit. She was no longer doing well. They parted ways, and what she decided to do was take a risk, but it paid off. She just started to do some contracting, some temporary assignments in organizations in the new industry that she wanted to work in. So they obviously weren't exactly the position she wanted, but she focused on building her brand and her reputation in that new organization, in the new industry that she wanted to work at. So she proved herself. She did a really good job, went above and beyond. And she also built her network within the organization, was reaching out to the departments that she wanted to work in. And it took her about 7 months or so, 8 months of doing this. A couple of opportunities came her way during that time that weren't exactly right, but she held out, and she's actually now working in a new career, in a new industry, in a new organization, because she had taken that time to build a reputation and build a brand within that organization where people were willing to take the chance and pull her into a new career direction when she had had no prior experience. So something to think about and really focus on when you're assessing these resources and building those. So step 3, this is a huge one, and I see this a lot when folks are unhappy in their careers and they want to make a change. We oftentimes have fears to do something different. No matter how painful or miserable we may be on our current path, at least we know. You know, it's the devil that you know. And we will get paralyzed if we're not taking that time to really face our fears and to put them into perspective in order to move forward. So one thing I like to say is when you're making a career change, and even when you're growing your career in general, you want to think about being fearless. And being fearless does not mean that you lack fear. It means that you have put your fears into perspective and you're able to move forward and move through them and push past that in order to take action. And I have 3 simple questions up here. These are questions that every time I work with a client and I feel them hitting that wall of fear, I've even answered these questions for myself at different stages. First, think about what is the worst that can happen if you make the career change that you're thinking about. Really paint a vivid picture. What is the thing that would be utter and complete failure? What would that look like for you? And after you've got that picture, then answer question number 2 here. If that worst possible case scenario happens, how can you get out of it? What is your plan B, essentially? How would you shift directions, recover from a misstep if that risk, if that chance to change directions didn't pay off? And oftentimes having that plan B is a great way to put a safety net and allow you to take some of those risks. And then the last question, this is for those of you who can't even get into action when you have a plan B. And I like to challenge you to think about what is the worst that can possibly happen if you stay put on your current path. And not next month, but think about it in the long term. 5, 10 years go by, you continue to be on your current path. You've had these indications that it's not right at this point. What does that look like? And oftentimes when we see the long term and what happens if we stay in our current path, oftentimes that's motivation enough to get going into taking some risks, because the risk of staying put can sometimes be worse than the risk of making a change, especially if we've identified what a plan B is and how we could get out of a corner if we took the wrong step. So facing your fears, really put it in perspective in order to move forward. So step number 4 is about making space and building up your reserves. I've said this a couple of times, but making a career change and really just manage your career overall is more marathon than sprint. So we need to make some space to take action and also build up your reserves. Really train, if you will, for making this change. So the first one is clearing your plate, and I've got this little formula up here, yes equals no, and really it has become almost a mantra for myself personally. And if our lines were open right now, I would ask you, what do you think yes equals no means? But since we're not open, I'm going to tell you yes equals no is really about the choices that we make with our finite resource of time. We only have so much time to take action and to do things. And we need to really understand what are we saying yes to. So an exercise I give clients all the time is to take a look at everything you are currently saying yes to, whether you're conscious of it or not. Really put that entire comprehensive list of what you're saying yes to. Your second list that you want to make is, what are the things that you really want to be saying yes to that are more important or more in line with what you want to do? What are the things you want to say yes to around making time and space in order to make your career change? And that list essentially becomes the things that you are inevitably saying no to because you're saying yes to some other things. And once you've got those 2 lists, I want you to prioritize those lists. And the list of no's, prioritize those things and say, what are the top 10 to 15% that I need to be saying yes to make this change possible? And by default, in order to say yes to those things, you need to start saying no to some of the things that are on your yes column. So look at that yes column. What are the bottom 10 to 15% things that you could start clearing away? Clean your plate, delegate them, gracefully bow out, ask for help, really open up that space that you need to start saying yes to some of those more important things, which possibly if you're making a career change could be the networking, it could be, going to school, it could be doing some side work or some volunteering in order to get you prepared for the new direction that you want. So yes equals no. It's a great exercise. I apply this to so many different things. If you do want some more information about yes equals no and the exercise, there's actually a blog post on my website, so you could go in there and have how to do this exercise right there at your fingertips. And then my second thing here on making space and building reserves. It might seem obvious, but this is really about self-care. It's really about nourishing yourself. It is a long process to make a career change, and you have to start taking care of yourself. We need that extra energy and that focus and the attention to place on making that change and really sticking to it. So if this is not part of your life, think about how can you add some exercise. It doesn't need to be more than 30 minutes, 15 minutes a day. Think about meditation. Oftentimes we get really stressful when we're in a frustrating place in our career and we want to make change. And doing some, I don't need an extensive practice for meditation, even if it's 5-10 minutes. Slow yourself down, take some deep breaths, really think about calming that mind and body down in order to help you survive the stressful situation that you're in right now if you're unhappy, and also have the energy that it takes to do some of the steps to make a career change. Sleep, can't underestimate our need for sleep. I think we are a sleep-deprived nation, and I think about myself. I'm a parent of 2 young children. I'm finally out of the baby stage, but I probably had a good 3 years of not having solid sleep. So when we're in that state of constant sleep deprivation and running ourselves ragged, things become much more overwhelming. We're not able to have the attention and the focus that we need. So really focus on trying to get some better sleep during this time to build those reserves to make your change. And human connection. This is about really having those intimate connections. You need support during this time when you're making a change, when you are frustrated. So don't underestimate the power of that human connection. And I think that leads perfectly to my next step, which is to get help. You can make a career change, you can make a job change on your own, but it typically is much more difficult than it needs to be. So I always stress getting help. Really think about the team that you could build around you to support you in this change. So I think about a personal board of directors, your own personal team. We think about organizations that have boards. They typically are comprised of people who have diverse perspectives, experience, come from different walks of life in order to help inform that organization to make the right choices. Think about that for yourself. Have a board of directors, have a team that's going to support you during this career change process and overall through your career that are going to bring a variety of perspectives and really support you in different ways. So some of the ways I like to think about, not just, what does someone do, but what do they bring to the table? There's a couple of roles that I like to tell people to make sure you have this seat filled on your board, if you will, and one person can possibly fill a couple of these seats, but usually it comes in the form of a multitude of people. Have someone who's going to be, your cheerleader, the encourager, someone who is going to pick you up when you fall down, who's going to keep you going when you get discouraged. Have someone who is a mentor. If you're looking to make a career change or make a job change, have someone who's been there, done that, who could really tell you about what their experience was like. Have someone who is a coach, whether that's a formal coach, the role that I play, or someone in your life who's going to ask you some questions to shift your perspective, to be a guide, to help support you as you're contemplating and thinking about this change. Really someone who could give you an objective point of view and support your thinking. I also tell people to have a challenger on their board of directors, someone who's really just going to give you a swift kick when you need it, when you're stuck and you don't want to move and you just need someone to push you. Have someone who plays that role. And the other person that I like to have you fill the seat on your board is someone who's a connector, someone who is going to put you in touch with the right people, who is going to possibly advocate or sponsor you to get you to the places that you need to be and to get you in touch with the right people. And the last thing here, and this is, maybe it goes without saying, but I want you to think about being purposeful of who you spend time with during the career change process. What we find is that our friends, our colleagues, our family even, they're not all created equal when it comes to how supportive they are in a career change. I'll think about it in my own personal experience when I was thinking about leaving Deloitte in 2008, early 2009. And what I found was there were those among my friends and family and colleagues who were just not receptive to the idea of me taking that risk. They had their own stuff, their own perspective, and they weren't really supportive. And I purposely tried to limit my contact with them during the change process and focus more on the folks in my life who were supportive and who could see the vision, and not in a delusional way. You still want to have the challenger, someone who's going to play a devil's advocate, someone who's going to help you think about, is it realistic what you want to do? But at the core of it, they are supportive of you and helping you achieve your vision of greater success in your career. So really be purposeful, limit the time of the naysayers, and really focus on increasing the amount of time you spend with those who are going to be supportive of where you're going. So that brings us to the end of our 5 steps. Now time for some questions. So I'd love to hear any questions that any of you have. Or just share a takeaway, something that may have struck you as something that you want to take away from the conversation so far today.
Thanks, Carly. We do have some questions that are rolling in, and I'm going to give us a couple seconds to allow those to roll in, because I wanted to point out a few things that I made note of while you were doing your presentation. The BU Alumni Association offers a number of resources that directly correlate to some of the steps that you've identified, and I wanted to make sure that I mention those again while we're letting some questions roll in. In your first step, asking the hard questions, I want to make sure that people know about the BU Career Beam system that we make available for free to all alumni, which has an amazing array of self-assessment tools and questionnaires that I think can be a great resource for people who are in that first step of really sort of evaluating their strengths, their desires, their goals, and what they have to offer any position. So make sure you check that out. Your second step, assessing your resources, you mentioned specifically networking. And the BU Alumni Association, I think, can help make that step a little bit easier to get started. Between our LinkedIn group, which now has over 7,000 members, I want to make sure that people join that. You can find that by going to LinkedIn groups and searching for the BU Alumni Association. You can also access that directly from our website. That's a great community to join in order to build your network and reconnect with some former classmates or people that you knew through BU. And also just attending our alumni events. We put on thousands of events around the globe every year. A great way to get out there and meet some people in your city, whatever city you might be in. So As I mentioned, we do have a number of questions that are rolling in. Some of them are more nuts and bolts. A couple people asking about getting copies of your slides. Now, Carly, you are including some information in that survey email that I mentioned everybody's going to be getting later today. You've provided links to a number of resources. Do you want to talk about those for just a few minutes?
Absolutely, Jeff. Thank you. Yeah, so part of all of you attending this, in the thank you email with the survey email, you're going to get a link to go to my website. I actually have a companion guide for you to download that is going to go into even more detail than what I've talked about today. So you could download that guide, pretty comprehensive. It'll go into more specific exercises. It will also link you to some of the blog posts that have more specifically the exercises that I've talked about, some quizzes, and some other things that you could do. So you're going to get access to that right in the email that you're going to get later on today.
Great. Questions keep rolling in. We've got one from Kelly, and I'm paraphrasing here. What changes, Carly, if any, do you suggest to the steps that that you outlined if you're not currently working? So for example, you know, a mom who has been out of the workforce for a while raising a family who then wants to get back in. Are there any adaptations you would offer for the steps that you've outlined?
That is a great question, and as a working mom and a mom who was more part-time during the early years than I am now, you know, really it's a lot of the same questions. I think the perspective that you take may be slightly different. You know, I think a lot of returning to the workforce individuals that I work with, I think they get really hung up on, you know, what am I good at? I've been out of the workforce for a long time, and so I think the step 2, if you will, assessing your strengths, skills, expertise, a lot of that may feel outdated for those who have been out of the workforce for a while. They might feel like, hey, I don't have a reputation, I don't have a brand, I don't have a network. And so I think a big thing that I see with a lot of the clients I work with who are returning, it's about doing some short-term assignments, contract positions, getting some more fresh experience, getting your confidence up that you've got something to offer. And it may not be perfect, it may not be extremely well paying at the beginning, but oftentimes it's going to pay off in the long term because it gets you in a place of feeling more confident about what you've got to offer, and it re-energizes the network and starts to build your brand. Fears, I don't know if I would change anything for step 3 in facing your fears. I think there's a lot of fears that come in when you're re-entering that you just maybe feel outdated. So I would keep those pretty similar. Yeah, and getting help. I think that is another one that I would definitely focus on if you are looking to return to the workforce. You really can't do it alone. It's going to take a team to get you there.
Got a question from Mary that's directly related to something that you talked about. Sometimes it's difficult to be realistic when the job market has changed so dramatically over the past few years. What are your suggestions for doing our own reality check for ourselves?
I love it. Well, I think sometimes you can do it for yourself, but really I think the reality checking comes in conversations with others. You can do research online. You could see what jobs are looking like these days. You could be realistic about what pay is. But don't underestimate having conversations with other people in order to do some reality checking. Sometimes we hold ourselves back there because we're afraid to be vulnerable and maybe hear something that we don't want to hear, or perhaps put a bad reputation out there, or make you not look so good in talking to folks. But there are so many people. Start with your most comfortable people in your network. Have them introduce you to others. So reality checking sometimes comes in having conversations with people who are doing the work that you want to do, and really getting a sense of what is it going to take to break in there. What is missing on your resume? Skills, experiences, certifications. having those informational interviews or networking conversations is really going to help you be much more realistic. And what you do in the process is actually build connections for the long term. And I see it with my clients, and I've experienced it personally. Even if it feels like a stretch now and it feels unrealistic, get a sense of what it is and what it's going to take to help get you there. And I guarantee you that you're going to build some friends. And when I put friends in there, people who are going to support you to help you get what you need. They're going to give you resources of perhaps the training or some more entry-level positions to get experience to get there. So hopefully that helps, but that's really my perspective on reality checking. It's talking to others.
We got a very easy question to answer. Tracy has asked if she could please have the URL address for your website. I know that's on probably your next slide. Do you want to go ahead and put that up, and we'll continue to ask a few more questions?
Absolutely. So let's go there. I'll put there's my contact information, and you could actually go to the contact page of my website in order to download the guide. There's some instructions in the top right-hand corner if you want to download the guide right from my site today.
Peter and Mary have asked similar questions, both related to your point about building your own personal board of directors. Peter's question is, how do you find a connector? Mary's question is, how important is a mentor in this process, and how do you obtain one? So, two questions about how do you really go about soliciting help from folks.
Yep, great. So I would say connectors, think about the people that you know, that you interact with on a daily basis, who always seem to be the people who, when you mention something, they say, oh, I know about that, or I know so-and-so. That's how you identify who your connectors are. They're usually the people who, for one reason or another, have their finger in everything, and whether or not you have explicitly asked them in the past to help connect you or not, you can do that right now. So if you can identify someone who's like that, maybe it's a friend of a friend. Maybe you go to your most immediate connections and network and say, who do you know who just has their finger on the pulse, who just knows a lot of people. So depending on if that person's in your immediate circle or not, you might need to take a couple of steps, but you could recognize those connectors by people who just happen to know a little bit about everything, or someone who does, who knows someone who does a little bit of everything. And so that's one way to find those connectors. And with the mentors, I think another way, especially if you're thinking about making a career change, how do you get a mentor? I'm going to go back to the informational interviewing. So say you are interested in making a career change into a new industry or a new field. I've had clients who have gone, go back to BU, who can your alumni career services office, who can they connect you to? Maybe there's employers, maybe, I know I'm active on the advisory network for BU, so you could find people that way who may be doing work that you do, whether maybe it's within your own organization or another organization that you could identify. If you can identify someone who is further down the line of where you want to go, that's a great way. And it might not be a mentor right away. Maybe you start with, can I have an introductory conversation? Can I learn about what you do, what the field is all about? And once you start to make that connection, continue to invest in that, give back to that person, and then also maybe you just ask specifically, can I really just leverage and tap into you as a mentor to help me figure out what are the steps that I need to take in order to be in the place that you are in right now?
Joanna asks an interesting question. Obviously, Carla, you've talked quite a bit about, reaching out to others for help, building your network, putting yourself out there. I guess the flip side of that is maintaining confidentiality. As people are trying to get their name out there, you also don't necessarily want your current boss knowing that you're in the process of doing that. So can you speak to that at all, about how somebody would sort of, prevent that blowback from their current employer by taking a peek at what else might be out there?
Absolutely. This is a big concern for many. And that's, I'll go back to the statement as, not everyone is created equal, and there might be some folks who might be valuable to you in your search overall, but maybe right now you're not going to turn to them because of fear that it might get back to your boss or to your current organization. And so be discreet. I have had clients that I advise them to say right on the outside when they're having a conversation with someone, right now I am in the confidential exploration stage. I'm just thinking about doing something different. Can I ask for your confidence? Can I ask that this stays between us right now? So sometimes it's that. One of the things that's interesting, I'll turn to LinkedIn. LinkedIn used to send automatic updates to everyone you were connected with every time you made a change to your LinkedIn profile. And this was usually a surefire way to let everyone you knew know that you were about to make a career change. So I used to advise people to turn that notification off so they could make changes and not have it broadcast to everyone. What I actually think is a recent change in LinkedIn is that they don't even do that function anymore. So I think you're safe in that way. But if you want to make sure that you're really safe, go into some of your settings and just make sure that you're turning your broadcast notifications off so that way people within your immediate circle aren't being informed that you're making any changes.
Great. Well, we're coming to the end of our time. Carly, I want to thank you for everything that you've done for our community. We do have a number of questions that are really, really specific and I think might be better off for another platform. You had told me before we got started that you'd be happy to answer any follow-up questions on our BU Alumni Association LinkedIn group. So if it's okay with you, Carly, I'm going to go ahead and create a new discussion for folks that we had a lot of questions about resumes and cover letters, about volunteering, about further assessments about what kind of career should I look into based on my skills. So that's still okay with you if you'll make yourself available for questions on LinkedIn?
Absolutely. And, one of the things that I do invite, if anyone wants to talk to me specifically, you could reach out to me directly as well if you have a specific concern or some thoughts. It's one of the things that Jeff and you and I talked about earlier, and you're going to see in the email that you get later today, is I'll do a complimentary session. So if you want to just pick my brain, explore perhaps what coaching is all about, feel free to reach out directly if you want to go above and beyond even the LinkedIn group.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Carla. Your presentation, today you've covered a topic that I know is totally in high demand for our alumni. As I had told you earlier, we sent out an email about this webinar and we totally hit our capacity in under 2 hours. So I know you're having a huge impact. The fact that you've allowed us to record this presentation and put it up on the web so that people can access it later, I can't thank you enough. And please know that I speak for the entire BU Alumni Association when I say thanks. My thanks also go out to everybody who's participated today. I hope you found value in this program and that you'll join us for our next professional development webinar. Our series is actually going to be on hiatus for the month of February, but we're making plans right now to come back really strong with a great series in March. In the meantime, I encourage you to keep your eye posted on our alumni events calendar, which again you can find at our website, bu.edu/alumni. And again, we've got things happening in countries around the world, cities across the United States, something for everybody, so please make sure you check that out. If you or any BU alumni you know would be interested in presenting one of these webinars in the future, I'd ask that you please contact me directly. Again, my name's Jeff Murphy. I can be reached by email at jt, as in Thomas, Murphy. That's jtmurphy@bu.edu. Thank you everyone for your time. Carly, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I hope everybody has a great day. Goodbye.
Great. Thank you.